One, just in case still wants to join or watch this, can they still or just jump into Teams? How do we treat late registrants or sudden
Mhm.
sudden participants?
Yeah, regarding that, we'll have to look into it because we currently
Okay.
taken who had registered for it. If there are people coming completely out of the Teams meeting link,
Mhm.
it will be hard to capture them because now we'll need to go through all of it, and it's hard to capture all these names who are joined right now. So we'll have to stick with who had registered for the session. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah. I mean not for the prizes, but if anyone just wants to join,
yeah,
watch the
definitely.
program, they can just join the teams, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely. There
perfect.
it is possible for anybody to be joining as long
Excellent.
as they had the link. Yeah,
Thank you.
cool. Okay, I think we took the time, almost 4 minutes. Thank you everyone for joining today's session. And today we have a special session which we'll be giving our $100 worth of prices. And today we have two topics that is happening from Ziggy and Tony, and both of them will give a brief introduction of themselves when we go into the session. And in that session, we'll be talking about building a application, and by Ziggy and Tony will be talking about Power BI dashboards. Before we jump into the session, I just wanted to give a short intro on what we're doing. So the session or the community event is on Stava, where we conduct online sessions like these from Microsoft expert or MVPs around the globe, where they share their knowledge, and we also conduct trainings, which I mentioned earlier, where we give out free training for anybody who is interested to be participating in it. And we also have a hackathon that is happening tomorrow. So if any of you interested in it, I will share the link in the chat box. And again, thank you everyone for joining. That is all from my side. I think one of the thing I missed is the session is recorded, and you can have the link to it, or the recording of it will be shared in our community, and there is certificate of participation as well. And for the winners, we will be picking through wheel where we pick randomly on who had registered, and also participant of the session. So make sure you be sticking out throughout the session so that we can make sure that you are here, and pick up and make sure that you are put in the list so that we'll contact you regarding the vouchers. Okay, that's it from my side, and Ziggy will be taking over from here for his session.
Thank you very much, Turag. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and Merry Christmas and advance Happy New Year. So, thank you for giving me this opportunity to provide you this talk on building Gentrip AI applications with Azure AI Foundry. So, there's actually a typo on the poster. So, it's Azure AI Foundry. And Azure AI Foundry is one of the key highlights in Microsoft Ignite. So Microsoft Ignite, it was an event by Microsoft last November wherein they provided all the major updates within the Microsoft company. So Azure AI Foundry is one of the key highlights. So I'm here to give you a 1 hour talk on how we can build generative AI applications with this platform. So let me introduce first myself quickly. So my name is Ziggy Zueta. You can add me up in LinkedIn. So this is my LinkedIn profile. I'm a LinkedIn Learning instructor. So LinkedIn is actually a subsidiary of Microsoft. And for those who are very much into Microsoft Learn, you'd probably notice that Microsoft Learn is pretty much text-based. And some people get actually sleepy just reading through Microsoft Learn. So what we did within LinkedIn Learning is that we created all of these videos for you. So if you have a LinkedIn Premium account, you'll be able to get instructional videos on anything with regards to AI, cloud computing, even playing the piano or the guitar. So I'm mandated by LinkedIn Learning to provide Microsoft AI videos globally. So I have already around 4 of them. Actually, one of them is very big that's coming up next year, at the start of the month, wherein once you normally when you complete a LinkedIn video, you get a LinkedIn badge. But this Microsoft AI course that I'll provide is different because there's a corresponding exam that comes with it. And once you complete the exam, you get a LinkedIn and Microsoft AI professional certificate. So it's a course for those who want to get certified on AI. So there's AI 900, which is which the common feedback was very what do you call this, complicated and very technical in nature. So the course that I'm providing is a little bit more easier for the business side. So there, I'm a Microsoft MVP. So I'm awarded the MVP in the AI space. So we're around 4,000 individuals all over the world, in which I'm awarded in the field of AI. And Tony, which will be providing the talk later, is in the data platform. I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer, so I provide trainings for those who want to get certified within the different, certifications all over the world. So I have 9 Microsoft certifications, among them the Azure Solutions Architect role and also the Azure AI Engineer Associate. So this course that I'll be providing, this talk that I'll be providing is available through a LinkedIn course. So if you take a photo of this QR code, you'll get a 1-month free access to actually not only this course, but all the other courses available. So from here, with this course, you'll be able to determine how you'll be able to build a RAG solution with Azure AI Foundry. So we'll discuss what a RAG solution is about. So the key takeaway for this talk is that number one, you can actually create generative AI applications with your data. So you've been using ChatGPT, everyone's been using ChatGPT. So up to a certain extent, so we'll discuss what an AI application is. And then from there, you can actually do it with no coding via Azure AI Foundry. For the purpose of this talk, when we discuss AI application, what we mean is having a large language model use your business data. In a sec, let me get my laser pointer here. And your business data can be in a document form, it can be images, it can be sounds, it can also be videos. So everyone here has been using ChatGPT for sure. And you'll probably be seeing people, create ChatGPTs to create a poem, to create jokes and all of that stuff. Or you copy and paste your email and then, copy your email and then paste it in the ChatGPT interface. And then from there, have it summarize or create, next steps or replies to that actual email. We're actually going to go much more deeper than that. Wherein you want to use an LLM, a large language model, in order to get insights with your data. So there are 3 common prevailing methods right now when it comes to incorporating domain data for large language models. The first one is prompt engineering, and the second one is retrieval augmented generation, and the third one is fine tuning. So let me explain what these are all about. For prompt engineering, you've probably heard about, you've probably been doing it already. You've probably heard about it. But the thing that you've been doing is actually the user prompt. So the user prompt engineering. What I'm going to be introducing to you is the system prompt. So the system prompt is a way for developers to tell a large language model how to interact with the user. So right now, what you're typically doing is, for example, cutting and pasting an email and then having ChatGPT reply to it, create a reply for it or summarize a document, or you have a piece of code that you cut and paste, or use GitHub Copilot for that case. You cut and paste code and then have ChatGPT determine what is the issue with your code. No? So that's typically a user prompt. When I say prompt engineering here, we're talking about a system prompt. With the system prompt, you will still apply the same prompt engineering principles that you may or may not know, but this time you as a developer, you're controlling how the large language model will interact with the user. So in this case, our example, you're an AI travel agent that will only answer questions about Japan. We have an application here. So let's say you have a user who's accessing your application through a mobile device. We have an orchestrator here in which it will receive the input. So for example, the user will ask here, give me a 3-day itinerary of Sydney. And then from here, The orchestrator will receive that prompt and then will feed that to the large language model. Now, since you asked that I want to have a 3-day itinerary of Sydney, but the large language model is only quote unquote instructed to only answer questions about Japan, even if the large language model knows about Sydney or about Australia, he will say that the language model will not reply back because he instructed it that you will only answer questions about Japan. So I'll show you how that can be done with Azure A Foundry. So bear with me. But this is one common technique that's occurring. A second one would be retrieval augmented generation. So this is the course that I have in LinkedIn Learning, wherein you incorporate external data into a large language model. So I always compare this with an open book exam. So in an open book exam, for those who probably may just have graduated or have bad memories about taking exams in university, in an open book exam, you bring all the books that you need. And then during the exam, any questions that are asked, you refer to an actual book or to an actual document to get the actual answer. So you retrieve. That's why we call it retrieval augmented generation. You retrieve all the documents that you can find to answer the question. So the question would be the prompt, but in this case, in the exam, that's the question. You find all the available documents, and then from there, based on those documents, you will provide a response back. That's the generation part. So in this case, you have custom data that we will attach to a large language model, and that's where the model will retrieve data from your custom. This custom data here would be your company data, your data source. And I also mentioned here that the large language model would lose the knowledge when the data source is no longer attached. So similar to an open book exam, once you no longer have access to your books, you probably may not be able to answer the question anymore because you did not put the data, the knowledge in your long-term memory. Same thing with retrieval augmented generation. So once you have this connection here, once you remove the connection, the large language model will no longer be able to respond back to the question because the data was detached to it. So how does RAG work? No? So typically, let's say this is your custom data, your company data. So your data can be PDFs, text, images, or any other format. You place it in Retriever, so this will be your data source. And then you have a user asking a question through a mobile app. The orchestrator here will get your prompt. So let's say you want to ask a question about a specific product in your database. It needs to retrieve. So let's say you ask about a Contoso product, let's say Trek hiking boots. It will find all the documents for Trek hiking boots. And then from there, provide the retrieved data plus your question to the large language model to generate a response. So that is basically why it's called retrieval augmented generation, because number one, it always tries to retrieve your documents first. And if there's nothing to retrieve, it will not be able to answer a question. Number two, it's augmented because it combines your user prompt plus the retrieved data. So that's the augmentation part. And the generation is wherein the large language model will generate a response based on the user prompt and the retrieved data. So that's how RAG works. And then finally you have fine-tuning. In fine-tuning, the language model is trained on a new set of data. So unlike RAG, which is an open book exam, fine-tuning is a closed book exam. In a closed book exam, where in school, you can't bring any books, you need to memorize everything. In fact, so when you memorize everything, it goes to your brain, it goes to your memory. So that's how it happens with fine-tuning as well. You have a large language model wherein you add your custom data. So this will be your business data. And the end result is the custom data is inside the large language model. You practically embedded the company data in the long-term memory of the LLM. So that's how it occurs. And how does it work? It's the same thing with the other. Well, sorry, it's not the same thing. What happens here is you have a JSON file which contains your question and answer pairs, and you train the large language model with that data set. And you'll see here the JSON model is now inside the large language model. Probably it practically has memorized it. And then from there, anytime a user asks a question, the orchestrator will get it, provide it to the large language model. If the question is contained within the internal data that you trained it on, it will generate a response. So that's basically how it does. So you'll probably be asked asking me right now, Ziggy, which is the best approach? In fact, there's actually no best approach. In fact, there's actually a combination of how you can do it. You can do a combination of all three. You have here, for example, system prompt, wherein you instruct the large language model on how to behave. You have a retrieval augmented generation, normally for data that is pretty much updated. I mean, if your data is huge and it's always updating, you want to use a RAG system because you don't need to retrain your model all the time. So all you need to do is just to add your data into the retriever, and the orchestrator will be able to get that retrieved data. If your data set is pretty much fixed or static, then you can put them in internal memory. So it really depends on what the use case is, but it's actually a combination of both. So now you'll be asking me, okay, so I know prompt engineering, I know RAG, I know, the basics of fine tuning. How to actually do it? By the way, there's also other considerations that you need to figure out. So one is, I have my business data. How do I ensure that it's secured? It's placed in a location that is secure, that cannot be hacked. Number one. Number two, the data that I'm using will not be used to train the large language model and will not be used by other external parties. So that's just the other consideration. Another consideration would be how to ensure that your inputs and outputs are secure. Meaning, when somebody tries to, create harmful inputs, whether it be to create a bomb or, to harm other people or to discriminate other people, and outputs, the AI model should, there should be a way to filter the inputs and outputs in general. So that's one consideration. The other one is obviously scalability and reliability. So this system needs to work for one person, and it can be scalable to up to hundreds of millions of users, similar to ChatGPT. So in fact, ChatGPT uses the Microsoft Azure stack, which I'll be discussing later. So how do you ensure that the system is scalable and reliable enough? And then finally, how do you actually do this if my organization has no development experience? So we all know that AI is is in the infancy stages, and a lot of people still do not know how to develop or create these. So how do you do this in such a way that you can do it without any development experience? So again, we discussed about prompt engineering, we discussed about RAG, we discussed about fine tuning. What are the different methods to customize? Within the Microsoft ecosystem, you can do it through Copilot Studio, so through a no-code and low-code environment. But for here, you cannot do fine tuning here. So you can do prompt engineering, and you can do RAG in Copilot Studio. Then, if you want to have more control, so obviously Copilot Studio is an end product. When you use Copilot Studio, you have no control on what model you use. In fact, we don't know what model we're actually using when it comes to Copilot. We know for the fact that it's GPT-4 Omni, but other than that, controlling the different parameters of the model, there's really no way to actually modify it. So obviously, as you go from left to right, you have more control, more power to customize your application for your business needs. So today I'll be discussing what Azure AI Foundry is. So it's a way to build generative AI applications using a low-code and to a pro-code approach. And I also have a course in LinkedIn for those who want to create from scratch from Python, in which you have full customization. We also have a course on that coming next year in January or February. So there's also a way to do that. So again, for this talk, we'll discuss how we can do it in Azure AI Foundry. So what is actually Azure AI Foundry? So just quickly, I'll not provide that much talk. It's going to be mostly demo. So Azure AI Foundry, number one, is a unified platform. Hold on a sec. My presentation here. So it's a unified platform that caters to non-developers and developers alike. So you can create a custom generative AI model. This requires a lot of components to set up, but Azure AI Foundry will do all these setup for you in one place. Because if you look at it, there's so many moving parts within Azure. But with Azure AI Foundry, with this unified platform, it will handle all of the integrations with you, all the integrations for you, rather. So number two, it secures your data. So it is built on time and tested Microsoft infrastructure. trusted by companies and governments all over the world. So one example would be, I'll show you the different companies that's actually using it. But we know for the fact that when Microsoft invested in OpenAI, OpenAI is using Azure as its it uses Azure for all the for its product, for all the workloads that you see, runs on Azure. So we know that it's actually tested for production ready workloads. And it provides you a lot of foundation models. So with Azure, you don't need to just use OpenAI. You can use others like Hugging Face, like NVIDIA's models. I'll show you what those different models are. So it's actually 1,800 foundation models that you can use from. And you'd probably be asking, why do you need 1,800 models? Because at the end of the day, not a single, each model will be strong in a certain use case. So it really depends, no? In fact, there's even a model for the weather. There's even a model for health, for genetics. A large language model will obviously will not be suited for those scenarios. Then there's also safe and responsible AI. So the beauty about, for example, AXA, this company AXA, they have an internal ChatGPT and they run it through Azure for the reason that there's actually a built-in content classification. So in ChatGPT right now, if you try to jailbreak it, you can probably be able to jailbreak it. But once you use it within Microsoft, once you start deploying a GPT model in Azure AI Foundry, there's a built-in safety feature that practically removes that risk. So there's actually a built-in more added safety feature for that. So we'll discuss what that is later. And then it's a full development lifecycle platform. So it's actually an LLM ops platform that brings data science and software engineering into a collaborative environment for data exploration, real-time experiment, tracking, prompt engineering, plus model and pipeline management. So I'll show you what that is later. So let's actually go with the demo. So enough of the talk. Let's show you what it actually looks like. So I'll show you. Okay. Share you my screen. So first and foremost, you can access Azure AI Foundry through ai.azure.com if you click on this. So I'll not demo to you on how to create a project, but the first thing you need to do is to create an AI project. That will take a while, around 10 minutes to create one, because it's going to be creating all of these different resources. In fact, let me show you what these different resources are. So once you create a project, it has an OpenAI resource. It has an AI services resource, a blob storage, an Azure AI search resource. So that's typically what it creates besides the project and the hub. No? So I will not get into that, but the first thing you need to do is to create a project. And then once you create a project, you'll be shown the screen wherein the first thing you'll do is to select your model. So as you can see here, so let's load this up. We have 1,820 models already available. So if you look at it, we have, this. If you see this icon here, that's an Azure OpenAI model. So we have O1, that's Strawberry. We have 4 Omni. We have 5. So that's Microsoft's small language model. And then from here you can see Mistral. So there's a Mistral here. There's Cohere here. Nematron from NVIDIA. We have Meta Llama, so this is a Hugging Face, and so we have the Databricks and so on and so forth. So there's actually a lot to choose from. So the first thing that you normally do is to choose the model that you want. So in this case, I will choose, for example, a GPT-4 Omni. So I'll click on that, and I'll click on this deploy. Now, so I will not deploy this right now. So once you click deploy, you'll have your own GPT-4 Omni model. So I'll not do that because I already have 2 models that I deployed. Okay, so I have a GPT-4 Omni model and a text embedding model, which will vectorize your data for later. So I'll not discuss what that is about, but in general, you need this embedding model to vectorize your data for RAG later. So the first thing, so first is to create your project. Second one is to deploy a model. Then third one is to add safety in your model. So here I'll show you what a content filter is. So from here, once you start using this content filter, you can specify. So let's open this. So I want to create a custom content filter. From here, I'll specify that in my inputs, all violent I will block. For example, I will block it. So all violent inputs, all hate inputs, all sexual inputs, all self-harm, I will block. So right now it's set at medium. So if you put it at high, it's going to be very lenient. If you put it at low, it's going to block low, medium, and high. So it's more strict. So let's say I'll put everything to low to make everything strict. And then there's even here prompt shield for jailbreaks. I'll annotate and block. Prompt shield for indirect attacks. This is for indirect attacks would be putting hidden information in the documents that you attach to the large language models. I'll put here annotate and block. And when you click on next, there's also for the output. So from here, let's say I want to put everything on the strict level. So again, now the strict level is low for everything. And then from here, protected material for text. So these are copyrighted text and copyrighted code. I will annotate and block. And then groundedness, I will annotate and block as well, for example. And then from there, I want to deploy it. So I want to deploy this strict filter to GPT-4 Omni and my other models now. So I will not deploy one because I already deployed it earlier. So I have this strict level here, which I deployed to a model. So once you've done that, you can start playing around. So you have this playground here. Okay. So an example here would be GPT-4 Omni. So after you deploy, the first thing you'll do is to test your deployment. So from here, I'll ask, what is the capital of France? Okay, so obviously it knows what it is because it's a GPT-4 Omni model. Now, we discussed about prompt engineering. So here you will see, give the model instructions and content. So this is how you, hold on a second, This is where you will you'll instruct the model how to behave with the user. So from here, I'll specify. So here, I'll click your generate prompt. You are an AI travel assistant that only answers questions about Japan. If user asks questions about other countries or other topics, you will say, I don't know. Okay. So from here, I'll generate using LLM to generate the system model. All right. So now it's here. You're an able travel assistant to specialize in other questions exclusively about Japan. All right. And then provide some guidelines. So now let's ask the question again. So what is the capital of France? So let's clear this chat here. I'll ask, what is the capital of France? And then from here to say, I don't know. So you notice that it's already different now. Okay. Give me a 2-day itinerary for New York. And you say, I don't know. Okay, how about 3 days in Hokkaido, which is actually in Japan? And then from there, it will provide a response back. So here, through prompt engineering, we were able to control how the large language model will interact with the user. So with that simple instruction here called the system prompt, the user cannot be able to get other information. So for example, here, who is the national hero of the Philippines, for example, and it will also say, I don't know, even if they didn't know it. So just to show you again, so let's reset this a bit. So let's remove the system prompt. Okay. And then let's ask the question again. I'll clear this again. So from here, we removed again. It's now back to its normal self, wherein it actually knows everything. Yeah. So again, that's showing you how you can modify it through prompt engineering. Now we discuss about RAG. So I want to add now my data. So let's give an example here. So let's say that I have my products here. So I have products here. Let's say product number 1. So I have a product here that I want to train my large language model on these products. So we have around 20 PDFs, okay, on different products. So each PDF is one product with different features. I want to train my large language model, or I want my large language model to know about these data. So I'll go to the chat. Sorry, not the. I'll go to Azure A Foundry, and I'll go to data and indexes. So from here, I'll go to indexes. What I'll do here is I'll create a new index. So this index will contain all my PDFs. Okay, so here I will specify upload files, and I will upload all of my 20 PDFs. So I'll upload all of them. Okay. So hopefully my internet is fast to upload all of these 20. So you'll see here, so once everything is checked, okay, not yet done. Okay, so now next, and then from here, I'll create an index. Okay, I'll create an index, and I will specify, I will just choose the proper settings now. So once you click on this create, I will not click on this because it will take 15 minutes to create one. But what will happen is, it will create an index here. And when you see it's ready, it means that the data is already ready for you to use. So we call this index 001. So let's go to my playground again. No? So I'll go to my chat playground. So I will clear my chat. Now let's ask the question about the Trail Master X410. No? So let's ask the question about this. So what is the price of the Trail Master X410? So remember, this is our product. The price is $250. Right now, it does not know what your product is about because you haven't attached. So remember, in RAG, we need to attach our data set to the large language model. So with the playground, what you'll do is you go to your Add Your Data tab here, and I will choose my index. So again, this index, which we created earlier, which we uploaded our files, it will create an index, and then from here, we attached in the Add Your Data section our index. So now let's ask the question again. Okay, so let me copy this, and let me clear this chat. Okay, and then ask the question again. Now it knows about the answer, about the, about the product because you attached it. So again, if you remove the data source, so again, as I told you, this is an open book exam, as we call it. Once you remove the connection to the data source, the large language model will no longer be able to know it. So from here, let's remove the data source. I'll remove it. Okay, remove grounding data. I'll click continue. And now let's ask the question again. What is the price of the Trailmaster X410? And then from here, the system no longer knows about the data. So that's how RAG is and how you can do it with Azure A Foundry. And then finally, fine-tuning. So fine-tuning, you can actually create your own fine-tune model here. So actually, this will take 2 hours. So obviously, I will not show to you how to do it end to end. But what will happen here is normally you should have a data set. So for example, this data set here. So I'll open it. It's actually a JSON line file, which contains all of your different data. Okay. So here, there's a format that you can see in the Azure A Foundry documentation. So in this case, I want to train it to be an Xbox customer service agent. And then from here, there's specific questions that we want the model to memorize. So in this case, if it asks the question about is Xbox better than PlayStation, you'll see, I apologize, I cannot provide opinions. And then, so the different question and answer pairs, you want the large language model to memorize it. So all you need to do is to upload this file in this format. So normally you need to have probably 100 to 1,000 of these question and answer pairs that you want to put in the model's memory. And then from here, you fine tune the model. All you need to do is to select a model. So let's say I want to fine tune my GPT-4 Omni. And then from here, I will customize it. Okay, so I will choose this, and then from here, I'll click on next, and then my data, I already uploaded it, the fine-tuned data set, which I told you earlier. Okay, so these are the data sets which I showed you in a text file. I'll click on next, 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 and then click on submit. Once I do that, to probably take 3 hours to train the data set, but you'll have a modified GPT-4 Omni that has all your fine-tuned data put in long-term memory, as you call it. So this one, there's no unlike RAG, wherein you do not with RAG you just attach the data, which I showed you earlier. With fine-tuning, you practically embed the whole data set into the memory of the GPT-4 Omni model. Okay. So now I'll cancel this because this will take many hours. I'll cancel that. You'll probably be asking now, how do you deploy these models now? So I've decided how do I deploy it. So what will happen here is we'll go to a prompt flow. So here with prompt flow, there's many templates for you to create. So a prompt flow is basically a way to connect your model, your large language model, your data set, and your different parameters, your prompt engineering into one system. And then we have different, what do you call this? We have different templates, as you call it. So we have a chat flow template, or I'll show you how to do this for the Japan travel assistant. And then you have a multi-round Q&A for this. This one would be for your Ragna. So if you click on create here and click create, you will end up with a screen similar to this one, which I'm showing you. So this is a flow that I created earlier. So here, you will see a graph. So when a user asks a question, this will be the chat toolbox, and then from here I can even add prose processing in Python. I want to process my output. So from here in my chat, I specified here you're a helpful travel assistant named Ziggy that only answers questions about Japan. So if you're asked questions about other countries or other topics, tell them that you do not know. So from here, the input is a question. So how about in Sapporo? And then let's say here it goes to the chat. So the input here should be in this format, a question and a chat history. So you can have just chat history. You can put it in the chat toolbox, in which the LLM would have this, plus other parameters, which I will not go into. But in general, as you as a developer would be able to control the other parameters of the model, such as the temperature, the max tokens, etc., etc. Then from there, I want to even add post-processing. So the output of the chat, I want to process it using Python. In this case, I just add a simple, I add a simple word at the beginning, konnichiwa, like hello. Okay. So now let's test this chat. Okay, let's test this chat. So give me a 3-day itinerary of Tokyo. So by the way, for this one, since we're not yet in production, the response here will be slow because we're using a test environment. I'll show you what it will look like in an actual production setting now. So from here, okay, give me a 3-day itinerary of Tokyo. So it's processing. And so yeah, it's going to provide an answer back. How about in Sydney? It should not be able to answer because we prompted it through prompt engineering. So remember, we have prompt engineering applied here, wherein it will only answer Japan questions. Okay, konnichiwa. So notice also that there's konnichiwa at the start. No, there's always konnichiwa at the start because what I did was I used a Python code in order to modify my input to add konnichiwa at the start. So konnichiwa plus input one. So just to show you an example of how we can even use. So this is the low code. So it's actually not needed. So I said there's a low code and pro code. No? I showed you the pro code. You can add Python here, but in fact, if you remove this, if you just remove this, you're actually good. You don't need that code in order to add, in order to do that, and just have this. So we didn't do any coding here. Once you create the flow here, so if I create one, you'll be provided this template here, and all you need to do is to set up your models, no? Set up your deployment and so on and so forth. Okay. So now we created a prompt flow. The next thing you need to do is to deploy it. So you click on deploy here. And then from here, you have the option. what virtual machine will I use it and how many virtual machines. So from here, it's recommended that you need to have 3 for redundancy. So if I choose this one, this model, I have 3 of them. I have 3 of these. I have this prompt flow deployed in 3 virtual machines, and this is the price. So if I click on next and review and create here, I'll be able to get an endpoint. So this one will take around 10 minutes to create. So I'll not demo how that would occur. But the endpoint is, sorry, the end result is you'll have an endpoint. Okay. So you'll have an endpoint similar to this one, which I deployed. So this is the deployment that I showed you earlier on. This is a prompt flow, which I deployed, the Japan assistant, in which you can start testing it again. So from here, what is the, sorry, this model that deployed is the RAG system, by the way. So what is the price of the Trailmaster X410? Oh, okay. Exactly a problem right now, but how do you consume it? So you consume it through this REST endpoint, and then you have your primary key and secondary key. All right. So once you've deployed it, you can test it in, for example, Postman. So here in Postman, if you click on this here, so this one here, I'll show you. So my deployment is this one, this endpoint here. I put it in my Postman. And then this is the question, and then I click on send, this is the response. And if you want to have history on the chat, so what is the warranty? And then are there any limitations? There's a history that is, it's providing an answer based on history. So here's my other deployment on my Japan assistant. So here, the input should be in JSON format. So you can, from here, with this API endpoint, you can start creating your own website. You can create any website for that sort, or even use MS Teams or any other, Copilot Studio. Call the API. So in this case, this is the API. Okay. And remember, I will not share my header, but here in this header, you'll specify here the API key. So you'll get the API key here. So you'll get the API key here. So here, if you ask the question, give me a 3-day itinerary of Tokyo, going to respond back. And then give me a 3-day itinerary of, let's say, Sydney. It will say, I don't know. Oops, sorry. Sydney. It'll say, I'm sorry, I can only provide information about Japan. If you have any other questions about Japan, and I'd be happy to help. So that's basically sums up the demo. So what I showed you is through the demo, the steps that you normally need to do is number 1, to deploy the model. So in this case, we deployed a GPT-4 Omni model. And then from there, we applied responsible AI filters. So we created a strict filter in order to make the GPT-4 Omni safe for corporate use. And then we started uploading our data. So if you want to have a RAG system, you just upload your data, your PDF files. And then from there, you can start testing in the playground how the system would operate. And then finally, we'll create a prompt flow. So I showed you how you create a prompt flow with no coding in order to deploy it. So once you've created it, I forgot to show you how you can evaluate it. So what will happen here is there's also an evaluation method within AI Foundry. So here in evaluation, so normally when you evaluate, there are actually many ways to do it. You can manually evaluate it, wherein you need to, let's say I have my product set here. So normally, of course, when you validate, you need to have your input and expected response. And then you have your large language model provide an output. So in this case, what is the color of the cozy night sleeping bag? My expected response is red, and then the LLM will say the sleeping bag is red. So I'll click on check now. So I did this manually, so this one, and you can also do it automatically. So here in the automatic method, what you will do is you need to specify your question and answer pairs. So one example here, so you need to have a question and answer pair here. So product evaluation JSON. So you need to have obviously your your what do you call this? Your data set ready, your query and your expected response for each. And let's say you'll have, let's say, 100 question and answer pairs. And then once you click on a new evaluation, so I'll click existing data set, you'll go through the steps here, and what will happen is, so I'll not go through that because it will take time, but what will happen is you will have a screen that will look like this to show you how the system performed with the different question and answer pairs that you're expecting. Okay, so here, yeah. So this is my query, this is the response, and then from here to say is if it's coherent or not, and then you have this graph here to say if the model is coherent, if it's fluent, if it's grounded, if it's relevant, if it's providing similar responses. So going back to the presentation. So once you create the prompt flow, you'll evaluate it. So you'll test it against a Q&A team. Your Q&A team will provide the question and answer pairs, the question and the expected responses, and we'll see if the model is responding based on those expected responses. And then from there, you'll actually deploy and consume it. So we discussed how with just one click of a button, you're able to deploy it, and then you can consume it through a REST endpoint, in which case I showed you how you can consume it using Postman. So in summary, with Azure AI Foundry, you can build your own AI application. You can evaluate, you can deploy, you can monitor in a safe manner and in a responsible manner. Any generative AI application. So you can do prompt engineering, you can do RAG, you can do fine tuning with Azure AI Foundry. So we discussed what those concepts are. And these are the different customers. I'll not go through each and every use case, but a lot of companies are already using it. I'm not sure if for people who are using Perplexity, it's actually built on Azure AI Foundry, formerly Azure AI Studio. So yeah, it's really a fabulous portal. And then for those who were not able to take a screenshot of this, you can, if you want to learn more on how we can build an application, a RAG solution with Azure AI Foundry, you can take a photo of this QR code, and then from there you get a 1-month free trial to actually access this video plus all the other videos in LinkedIn Learning. So without further ado, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to provide a talk. And before we have a raffle, so we'll have a raffle. So we did discuss that there will be a raffle. So we're giving away Christmas prizes. But before that, before we give away, any questions from the audience? Because we still have time for questions from the audience. Anyone? Any questions from the audience, or is everyone here just for the raffles? Just kidding. Let's check on the chat. None. All right. Okay. And MD Sajad. Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead. Ask the question. And here's the QR code for those who want to get the QR code. Yes. Can I unmute you? Let's see. Can you unmute you? Unmute. Allow mic. All right. Yeah. So I allowed the mic for you. You have a question? MD Sajad Hussein? You raise your hand. You have a question? Okay, I guess not.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Sure. What is your question? Sorry, I can't hear.
I'm talking. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. No, I can't hear you when you ask the question. When you say I can hear you, but now I can't hear you. Okay, maybe you can type in your question. So Raj, let's have the raffle. Let's get the raffle going. And maybe once Sajad is able to get his audio back, maybe you can answer his question.
Yeah, sure. Let me just share my screen
Okay,
so everybody can see it.
sure. And maybe Sajad, if you could type in your question, what other use cases can we use Azure A Foundry? So
This is
there's actually
so
a lot of use cases. So yeah, I mean let's have first the raffle. Go ahead. Yeah, let's have the raffle first, then let's answer the questions. We have time. So let's award we have around how many? How many are we giving out again? Forgot.
so so we have the first winner, which is of $35. I think that is the
There's the grand
for the
prize.
first one.
We'll do that at
Yeah,
the
I hope.
end. Let's do that at
Hello,
the
hello,
end. Let's let's give
Yes,
out
can
first
you
please.
the
hear me?
yeah. Let's
Hello,
do
I'm MD Shabzal.
Is
Can you hear me?
uh someone's asking for the question. Do we take it right now or
let's do it later. Let's have the let's just do it later. So let's have the 10 consolation prizes first.
okay? So I am gonna click it over here.
Yeah.
Let's see what who is gonna come up. I'm just gonna note it down. So do we have that person here?
Julia Han Pal. So we have your first consolation prize of
She
200
just raised
pesos.
her hand. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, let's have her. Please yeah.
Yeah. So the next
Congrats.
one, let's see.
Congratulations.
So for the next one, I note it down.
Tanya Chawla. Is she here? Or is he or she here, yeah, rather?
Okay, note it down. Let's go for the next one. I think there is 10
Okay.
of them, right?
Okay, yeah, there's 10 of them. Okay, so while we're having those spin the wheels,
Mm,
so does Azure A what other use cases can use Azure A Foundry? Ito in fact a lot, no? So whether it be customer service, getting insights about your data. So for example, I use this in a government setting wherein we have all the documents in the government and we have citizens asking questions about specific services that are inside the PDF. So that's another. So many use cases. When you say RAG here, any data that you want to attach to a model and you want the large language model to know about your data, you'll be able to. And the large language model will be able to answer the question. No? So a lot of use cases from, I mean, yeah, all the use cases you can probably think of in generative AI, but typically, whether it be customer service, um, knowledge management, um, actually, I will send, if you go to customers.microsoft.com, so I'll give you this website, you'll be able to see all the different use cases that different customers all over the world are using Azure A Foundry or Azure A Studio, as you call it now. So I'm providing you a link here. Okay. So we're just congratulations for those that we are choosing for. And then there's a question here from HBKD Shamal. Does Azure A have Foundry have any RAG-based systems? So yes, that's what I showed earlier. So we attached my document set, which were in PDF. And then from there, based on those, the large language model is providing answers based on those PDF documents. Additionally, can you explain if Azure A provides any facilities or features related to document AI? So we do have Azure Document Intelligence, which I did not show a demo. When you say document AI, I think this what is it? This is this getting I have a video in LinkedIn wherein you have custom forms, let's say invoices, receipts, or any custom form that people are filling up, and then all of those invoices or receipts, we have document intelligence process them and automatically place them in a system like SAP. So yes, there's a separate Azure AI workload for that. We call it document intelligence. So that's one thing we use it for. Is it worth implementing despite the computational costs? Well, as you notice, the costs is pretty much number one on token base. So if there's no one using it, then there's no cost. But yeah, I mean, you're deploying it in a server in which you showed here earlier. I showed you earlier the cost. You can choose different servers for different costs. So if you, let's say you're budget friendly, then you want to choose a server that is of lower cost. So that's one. The other option that I will recommend, in which I have another course, in which you'll create totally one from Python. And with the Python implementation, you will use a serverless approach, wherein you'll only be consuming based on usage, on OpenAI token consumption cost. So if no one's using the application, then you're not going to be spending anything for it. So obviously, at the end of the day, as I always tell my clients, if it's easy to implement, it's going to be more expensive because obviously Microsoft is charging you for that ease of use. So Microsoft 365, for example, is more expensive than creating one from Python. So if it's an end product, you obviously is going to be more expensive. So Copilot Studio is an end product. Azure A Foundry is somewhat an end product, but at the end of the day, if you want to get cheaper, then you want to deploy it using Python. So that's another course for that. Any other questions? So Raj, have we gotten 10 already?
Yeah, we're already done with the 10. I'm just gonna drop all the winners again.
Yeah.
In the chat box.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have this recorded anyway. So they will contact you for those who have won. Congratulations. Actually 200 pesos, or if obviously if you're in another country, we'll provide you, what is we have a Sodexo for those who are in the Philippines. But for those who are in another country, you'll be given the option to choose a voucher of your choice. So, my talk is done and it's 9 p.m. Great. We have another hour for Tony to provide his talk on RBI. So I'll turn this over to Tony. Thank you very much, everyone, for providing me this opportunity to give this talk. And yeah, Tony, it's your turn.
Thanks, Ziggy. Awesome presentation as always. So to contrast what Ziggy showed a few minutes ago, this is a less technical presentation. This is more process-oriented. This is more, what do you call that? Yeah, process and standards-oriented. Putting the dash in dashboard, inspired by Data School's How to Design a Dashboard book. So, hi again. My name is Anthony Kua. You may call me Tony. Currently, I am a senior manager at TTEC Digital's data visualization team. I have 20 years of experience in the business process outsourcing industry, more call center than any other business process, that is. And I am certified on PL300, which is the main Power BI certification course until now. I'm also certified in DP600, PL900, which is just fundamentals, and certified Lean Six Sigma Green Belt as well. I am the founder of Power BI Pilipinas, the biggest and modesty aside, the best Power BI community in the Philippines. And similar to Ziggy, I am a Microsoft MVP. As he mentioned, my MVP award is specific to the data platform category. So let's get started and jump right in because we still have some raffles to do at the end of the presentation. The dashboard design process. So, wait, sorry. I need to move the Teams window that is popping up. So I called it Dash because it's DASH, Define, Architect, Setup, and Handover. Let's talk about Define first. For Define, we are thinking about identifying key roles. We are thinking about determining metrics to monitor. For identifying key roles, we are thinking about roughly four types of roles, four stakeholders. That is the data engineer, that is the data visualization developer slash analyst, that is the viewers, that is the resource person. So let's start from number one. I mentioned four. For the data engineer, that's the person who is usually administrating your data set. He's the person that you go to as far as asking what the data source is, what's the easiest way to pull it. And there will be some situations where there's no data engineer, where the data viz person is also going to be the data engineer. There will be times wherein, apart from a data engineer, you have a separate entity called data governance. So I will have a discussion about the data governance functions in a later slide, but for now, data engineering in general, or the data person, is one of the stakeholders or one of the roles. Second role, as I mentioned, data viz developer slash analyst. If you are here from the Power BI Pilipinas community, maybe that most likely will be you. You will be the data viz guy. You will be the what are the other roles? Could be data viz designer. There are a lot of ways to call that specific role now. And then, of course, number three, number four, you have your viewers and you have your resource person. As far as the viewers go, that's your general audience. They don't really get involved as far as you designing the dashboard itself goes, at least at the first part. But all throughout the process, especially during the design process when you're wireframing it, you do keep the audience in mind. Like, how will they actually be using the dashboard? How will they actually be utilizing the dashboard? For the fourth stakeholder, or the fourth role that I mentioned, it's your resource person. So that's usually who requested the dashboard in the first place. They are the ones that have sometimes a rough idea in mind that they need the dashboard to present a certain metric. Sometimes they will have exactly what they want in mind. Sometimes they won't. Sometimes they would just tell you that, do your magic. I'm not sure how to present this. So that's one of the things that actually uh, separates okay data viz people from the better ones. The better ones will be able to ask relevant questions, find out what the business questions are supposed to be answered, investigate, find out how the audience are going to be using this dashboard, and actually work hand in hand, help out the resource person and possibly some of the audience as far as planning a certain dashboard. So once you know the key roles, determining the metrics to monitor. So obviously, your resource person is going to be number one there. You will try to, as much as possible, only include relevant metrics. One of the pitfalls, as far as determining metrics to monitor, is allowing too many metrics into your dashboard and not scoping it appropriately, because again, like, there can be two extremes. One extreme may be the resource person, the requester, doesn't really have a lot in mind. He just has one metric in mind that he wants to track, and in that case, you will need to egg him a bit, push him a bit in terms of what business decisions do you want, or what business questions do you want answered? What are the things that we can break this down on? What are the actual consequences that we're trying to avoid? Things like that. And on the flip side, if you have a very eager requester that has a lot of ideas, then you may need to set up some fences, make sure that you have a certain scope, because as far as scope and limitations, which is going to be part of the next slide, we want to make sure that we have a very strict finish line, or a very strict like end goal as far as how can we say that as a data viz developer or data viz analyst that you were in fact able to complete the requirement. You were in fact able to complete the request. So it starts as early as the define phase where you are already determining what are the metrics that we want to be monitored. Oops, sorry. And before I move on to the next slide, so part of the determining the metrics, as I mentioned data governance earlier, it's a team that I don't see a lot as at this point, at least in my data career. So a lot of people are familiar with data viz, data engineering, data science, data analytics, of course, data analysis. The data governance team is a team that is usually responsible for making sure that there is a single definition for a metric. They are responsible for making sure that a certain KPI's definition, formula, sometimes even the data source is consistent across the different teams. So they can play a role as far as determining the metrics that that need to be monitored, as far as making sure that definitions are strict and aligned. A second step from the DASH from Dash. So architect. This time, finding the best visualizations for your metrics. Again, this presentation is meant to be more process-oriented. So I'm just gonna sprinkle some bits about the best visualizations for your metrics. So everyone's familiar with line charts, where they are best used if you are going to be presenting data that is over time, dates, months, years. Everyone's familiar with column charts or bar charts, wherein those visualizations are best used whenever you have certain categories that you want to compare, anything that you want to compare. I assume a lot of people are familiar with histograms that where they work really well in showing frequency distributions. And of course, you have your run-of-the-mill pie charts, donut charts, and scatter plots, depending on what you want, what else, or what you want to visualize. Arranging your charts as a dashboard, as far as architecting, is about layout, about there are if you go through like dashboard creation courses, they will be mentioning how certain people read through their books, for example, and this is culture dependent. Like if you read through a Japanese comic book, you will actually be going from right to left. And if you are uh, going through an American comic book, then you will be going from left to right, right? As far as going through a page is concerned. So that, of course, is taken into consideration when you have, if this is, for example, a dashboard, what you're looking at here, if my PowerPoint slide was a dashboard, the very first thing that you will be looking at is architect because it's on the upper left corner. Usually the last thing that people will be looking at is the lower right corner. And that's just because that's how we read English letters, going from upper left to lower right. And some people would call it, some people would have a Z pattern that they would say because you go from upper left, you go straight to the right, and then you go one layer down. You can think about it as a double Z, right? So you go one level left to right, and then another level left to right. Some people would have a different terminology for it, but essentially, it's mimicking how people would be reading a book or a comic book or a piece of paper. And then lastly, dashboard prototyping is more about uh, using the different tools that you have as far as visuals are concerned, but nothing that is already hooked up to the data yet. So it's really about showing your requester, showing your resource person that this is going to be the general look wherein I'll have cards at the top. I might have a donut chart on my second row. I might have a table on my lower right corner for certain details. And there are a lot of tools that you can use at this stage for dashboard prototyping. That's where Figma comes in. If you're familiar with that, a really popular tool for creating. And you know what? I'm online, so I can show you stuff. So you'll have Figma. That's one of perhaps the most popular interactive design tool. I personally do not use it because it is. I'm not sure how good the free version is right now, but way back then, you do need to pay for it if you plan to use it a lot. There is a free tool that I was using, or I still use for that matter, which is Penpot. It's extremely similar to what Figma does, which is it's essentially a web app that wherein you can create your own little what do you call that? Accept. Wherein you can create your own little elements, and you can use those elements to design your. Sorry, there's a lot of. It's been a while since I logged in, apparently. So you can design your own little line charts, bar charts, things like that, and you can like recycle, reuse them for a lot of your projects. It just makes your wireframing a, a tiny bit quicker because you can throw in elements and reuse those elements for future designs, depending on how you want your layout to look like. So I'd have like, I can go to this board, for example. Sorry, let me zoom in. I can go to this board and you can see that I have, or I should have, do I? Hold on, sorry. So I should be able to click on elements such as the donut chart, if it would allow me to. Sorry, there you go. If I click on the column chart there, so and I can click on individual bars, and these are all elements, assets, as Penpot would call them, that I can just throw in, and I can customize, recreate any card, any stack bar gauge that I created, and as well as throw in any other uh, logo that I wish. And then so those are the like the more popular, more power user oriented prototyping wireframing tools. But on the flip side of it, you of course have pen and paper, which is extremely reliable and still very much welcomed actually by any respectable data viz developer actually. And you, of course, you have your PowerPoint, you have your Excel. There are some people who find it really comfortable to build wireframes using PowerPoint, and that's perfectly fine. Or in Excel, perfectly fine as well. There is just a tiny bit of more effort, I feel, if you try to create it in Excel, because then you need to involve some data with it as instead of just putting lines and circles together to create to create your wireframes. Third step that we are going through is the setup. So as far as the setup goes, this is where the actual development comes in. We are working with Power BI data, so finding the data that builds the metrics. And as far as finding the data, so this is you and your data engineer. And again, sometimes that may be yourself because you're also the data engineer if it's a relatively small project and you're just trying to connect to data sources directly. So usually you have three data scenarios. You either have clean data, which is ideal, which usually does not happen. Second scenario is you have messy data, and this is the most common, where your data is there, but either you have a free text entry column where you have uh, North America, for example, spelled 5 different ways. You have the word Nepal spelled 3 different ways, things like that. Or number three scenario is you have no data at all. So you actually need to think about to uh, how to even have a data what do you call that? A way to generate data, like or collect data for that matter. So maybe you need to set up a process, work with your requester. That that can happen, but as long as you have a data source, regardless if it's clean or messy. Good news is with Power BI Desktop, you do have a lot of connectors available with it. If you go here, you go to Home, and you go to Get Data, open it up, go to More. There are, I just say a lot, right? I haven't counted recently, but as far as at least in my experience, so whether it be connecting to Microsoft SharePoint, the different Azure connectors, the Synapse connector, the Databricks connector, whether you want to make it simple and just connect to a local CSV file on your desktop, a lot of it is available from within Power BI Desktop. And you, of course, have the search button or the search window if you have something that you're unsure if you can connect to, such as Smartsheet, for example, where we have legacy and beta now available. So there are a lot of ways to connect to. So far, at least in my experience, again, virtually any data source that I needed to so far. Going back, I keep on exiting my PowerPoint. Sorry about that. Yeah. And then, so part of the building the metrics and building the dashboard, we can just kind of combine them into one is, of course, tool knowledge. So again, our tool of choice, at least for tonight, is Power BI. So building the metrics will involve a bit of if your data set is SQL powered, then it actually does help if you have SQL knowledge. It will allow you to better control or more efficiently, sorry, it will allow you to more efficiently control the data that is coming in to your Power BI data set, because you will be able to control it from very early on. You can enter SQL codes in order to pick only the columns and or the rows that you need to be inputted into Power Query. And from there, you can use DAX, which is the formula, the programming language that Power BI uses as far as creating the formulas are concerned, in order to create your in order to create your metrics, your KPIs in the scorecard. And then, of course, building the dashboard. That's where you actually use the many visualizations inside Power BI. Let's go to my Power BI desktop again. And I do want to highlight, again, this is not the presentation for it, but I do want to give a special shout to the external tools that you will have available in your Power BI desktop. Uh, make sure to not sleep on them. So a lot of these are free. Actually, what you see here are mainly the external tools that I use in my day-to-day. Tabular Editor 3 is the only one that is paid. The good news is you do have Tabular Editor 2 available for free. So even if you cross out this one, Tabular Editor 3, just in case you're not yet ready to make that purchase, which is perfectly understandable. That's why they have a free version, version 2. You have ALM Toolkit, DAX Studio, Measure Killer, Tabular Editor 2. And these free external tools does make your life a lot easier for Power BI. So example of which is Measure Killer. If you have been a Tableau user in the past, you know that in Tableau, there's a way for you to know what visuals will get broken. For example, if you delete a certain measure in your Tableau model, it will tell you which page, which visual will it mess up. That's kind of what Measure Killer does for me. So in Power BI, if I delete a measure, it doesn't really give me that warning, and it will just delete the measure, break my visuals because of that, right? So with Measure Killer, it will allow you to find out what are the measures that are not being used. At the same time, it does have the uh, feature to also tell you what are the tables that it doesn't use, what are the columns that your current dashboard does not use, and you have the option to, well, kill those measures, kill those columns, kill those tables. And then Tabular Editor is just a really excellent way to create new measures, revise existing measures. There's so many things that you can do actually with Tabular Editor. And it's, if you have not looked at external tools, I highly recommend starting perhaps with Tabular Editor actually, and trying to understand what are the things that it can do. Really, really helpful, really useful in terms of creating your DAX measures, in terms of setting up your model, your semantic model. That is the setup phase. And then moving on. Sorry, just taking a quick peek at our Teams chat before I move forward. Okay. Last part or last step in my Dash approach is the handover, which is distributing the dashboard. So as far as you being able to develop the dashboard, of course, it's now time to actually distribute it, publish it. And apart from publishing the dashboard to the appropriate server, this does include providing trainings to potential users of your dashboard, which was your audience way back in the define stage, in stage 1. Scaling the dashboard is pretty much understanding if a certain dashboard, or if that particular dashboard that you just built is enjoying an increase in terms of number of views, number of users, then we may need to make sure that that particular dashboard gets some extra love, either by optimizing the dashboard, either by adding links, adding buttons, adding features. Maybe there are documentation that needs to be added. There are some features of Power BI that uh, is not that obvious. It's not that intuitive to the new Power BI user. One of the things that I always tend to need to tell my, and you know what, we have time, so let me open a Power BI file real quick. So one of the things that, for example, I tend to always re-tutor my audience is about using the drill through features of Power BI. And those are things that you do in your, sorry, I'm trying to look for the for a dashboard that I can show. And those drill through features, or sorry, drill up and drill down features. So those are features that are available on your matrix, on your tables, and since they're tables that plain look like tables, and you need to hover your cursor on the upper right corner for the audience to actually see the options. It tends to be one of the easily missed features of any dashboarding project. Let me open that, and while waiting for that to open, as we proceed, I mentioned documenting the dashboard, and of course, closed feedback loop. So kind of depends on how your dashboard project is set up. Like, are you going to be the owner of maintaining that dashboard, or is it something that you will be passing on to a different team as far as maintenance is concerned? But it's a good idea, assuming you still have some sort of ownership on the dashboard, to have check-in meetings every so often for you to check how the dashboard is doing. Maybe asking the requester, some of the audience, like, how is the dashboard? Is it useful enough? Is it do they have a certain pattern in using the dashboard, and some things need to be adjusted as far as where visuals are, as far as having certain features for for them to be able to use the dashboard easier. So it's really making sure that you are in fact making their lives easier because we're a dashboard. Do I have that open? Okay. So as I mentioned, these little things here, the drill up and drill down buttons, I tend to always not really but I always need to train people, new Power BI users specifically, to use those options because in this case, for example, if I have it shown as that, although it's obvious that you can expand, collapse, but there will be times wherein what they want is for them to be able to see just all of the what do you call that? All of the individual pizzas for all of the categories, and they wouldn't necessarily know how to do that or what each of these buttons do un unless you actually go and show it to them. So I there will be some parts of Power BI that will be less intuitive than other parts. And at the end, we just want to ensure that your dashboard always gets better. That's why we have that close feedback loop. That's why we want to uh, talk to the requester, check in on them every now and then, and to also, it's good practice for you to check your usage reporting. If you're not someone who uses usage reporting in the Power BI service, I highly recommend checking that out because it not only tells you who checks out your dashboards or who views your dashboards, it will allow you to see which pages in the dashboard gets used more. And it's a great start of a conversation for you to show them that this is the dashboard usage so far, thoughts on as far as this page not being used that much, thoughts on possible improvements on a certain page that is getting used a lot, stuff like that. One thing that I want to note before we move forward with usage reporting is the built-in Power BI usage report. And I'm trying to think if I can show something because I do have, uh, let me go to a non-business Power BI workspace and try to pop the usage reporting there. One thing that I'd like to note regarding usage reporting is it's it can be inaccurate at times. One thing that you need to note is currently there are a lot of browser extensions available, right? Sorry, I think it's okay. Dark Reader was weird there. There are a lot of browser extensions these days, whether you're on Chrome, Edge, Safari, whatever. And there are some extensions that would block cookies, Privacy Badger, I think I forgot what it's called, but basically there are a lot of cookie blocking extensions, is my point. And those cookie blocking extensions can mess up your usage reporting. So I always tell people whenever I show them the usage reporting, I always have that disclaimer that if if one of the audiences during your usage reporting presentation knows that they use the dashboard, but they don't see their names on it, it's very possible that they have an extension in their browser that is blocking Power BI cookies. So obviously the solution for that is just to whitelist app.powerbi.com so that Power BI can have a way to track the dashboards, the pages that you are specifically looking into. So what I'm showing here is the default usage metrics report from inside Power BI. Let's go to a different workspace. Demos, portfolio, demos. And then from here, okay, never mind. I don't have usage reporting. But what I would like to show or what I would like to highlight is as far as usage reporting is concerned, although we do have that default usage reporting report, which you can access by simply going to any of your semantic models or any of your reports, sorry, click on the three dots. You should be able to see view usage or metrics report for any of your dashboards. You do have a way to tap onto the semantic model itself and actually view all of the dashboards, all of the reports in your workspace and see which report is being used the most. So that will require you to open Power BI Desktop and then connect to the usage metrics report semantic model that is automatically generated whenever you click on any of your usage metrics for a certain dashboard. And you will see 0 here because I apologize. This is a non-business workspace that I don't really use a lot, but it does have sanitized data. Sorry about that. So that was usage reporting. And so you've gone through DASH. You've gone through stage 1 to stage 4. You've closed the loop. Dashboard ACES is about what are the best practices for dashboard creation, for dashboard design. And obviously, I love acronyms. So you have dashboards should be accurate, clear, empowering, and succinct. So as far as accurate, number one, it's actually the most important. And it is the essentially game-breaking best practice that you have. So if a dashboard is not accurate, if a dashboard has potentially incorrect information on it, doesn't matter how pretty, how interactive your dashboard is, people aren't going to use it, unfortunately. So number one, always make sure that the formulas, the data source, are actually providing accurate information. And as far as data quality as far as data quality is concerned, those are two things, right? Whenever we say data quality, you are looking at accuracy and you are looking at completeness. So as far as accuracy, it's having those correct formulas, it's having the correct data source. As far as completeness of data, it's about making sure that do we actually have up-to-date data? If today is December 28th, if today is December 27th, do we actually have data from December 26th? If we only have data from December 21, is there a problem with our refresh? Is that expected? Things like that. And metric comprehension is pretty much data definitions on the possibly on the dashboard itself. It's remember when I mentioned data governance earlier, and them making sure that the definitions are aligned as far as what a metric is or how a certain metric is calculated. So it's pretty much you documenting it, putting it in front of the dashboard so that it kind of serves as help, maybe as a tooltip for users of the dashboard to make sure that they also know what they're looking at, what they're reading. And visualization design is still part of accuracy because it's about using one example of visualization design is using proper axis ranges, using the proper maximum and minimum axis ranges for your line charts, for example, in order to make sure that you are presenting data as accurate and as non-misleading as possible. For number 2, clear. Those are the fonts, colors, context, layout for fonts. Intermediate Power BI users will know that you can, in fact, customize the font in Power BI outside of what's available. So you know that there are some available fonts, right? Your Sego UI, your DIN, but you do have the option to use more extreme, more artistic fonts. So let's say you want to be extra artistic and you want to use Comic Sans in as far as your font face is concerned, you can do that. One thing I would like to note though is that once you publish your customized font Power BI file, that particular font needs to be installed on everyone's or on all of the audience's machines. So if I used Comic Sans on my Power BI desktop file, for example, even if I see Comic Sans and then I published it to the service, and then there's an audience that looked into it and they don't have Comic Sans installed, they will be seeing pretty much a sans serif font on there that looks like Garamond or Times New Roman, but it will mess up their font view. That is the reason why I tend to actually rely on the built-in fonts, particularly sa Go UI, particularly Din. I There was a time where I was using Calibri for some of my dashboards, and I also found that Calibri is not available in Mac OS machines, so it was messing up Mac OS, my Mac OS audiences. So as far as fonts, honestly, my tip there is you can go fancy as far as your header, but just use an image for that. For example, if you decide to have an header, or sorry, if you decide to have a header that would say like executive summary and you want it to be in a fancy font, go ahead, use an image for it. And then for the rest of the report, stick to Sego or Din, or actually stick to those two. And then for colors, one thing about colors that I wanted to highlight, apart from you using consistent colors throughout your report, is to check accessibility. That's one thing that I tend to notice for some of the people that I've seen create dashboards is they tend to skip proper accessibility in their colors. And you can just search for contrast checker on the web. You most likely you will end up here at the web AIM contrast checker. And this is a really neat website for you to check, well, color contrasts. So in this example, I'm using a kind of royal blue color for my foreground, which is my font. And then for the background, I'm just using white. And it shows you like samples. It will give you like certain contrast standards if it passes. And notice what happens if I choose a light blue over a white background. So let's use something very light, like this light, this light, this light there. If I do that, you'll notice that this is how it would look like. And it's now failing pretty much everything, all of my contrast standards. So this is a really neat site. Whenever you have like a certain background that you're trying to go for, let's say it's something cyan, and then you have a blue font that you want to use. It's a really great way to check like how how dark does my blue font need to be so that it passes all of the web contrast standards. And yeah, there you go. So it's uh, it allows you to be more objective as far as the color matching of fonts that you're using. And then context. Context is kind of similar to metric comprehension. So it's very helpful as far as putting in descriptive axis labels, subtitles, as far as making sure that your users do not what do you call that, misinterpret your visuals. And then for the layout, this is kind of a repeat of what I mentioned earlier. Basically, top left going to bottom right. And then for empowering, do they actually view it regularly? This is again where usage reporting comes in. If they're not viewing it regularly, then maybe it's time to have a meet with your audiences, with your research person. Why are they not using it regularly? Does something need to change? Did they find anything wrong with the accuracy of the dashboard? That's why they're not using it as often. And letter B for empowering is, does it actually factor into their decision making? Does it actually if a certain KPI in the dashboard goes to zero or doubles, do they actually do anything? If they do not, maybe the dashboard isn't really of value to them, and maybe something needs to be reprocessed or reconsidered. And then being succinct is, of course, being brief, making sure that uh, the dashboard is well specific enough and not distracting to the audience, and relevant enough. It's easy to create useful visuals, because a lot of visuals are useful on their own independently, like a single line chart of sales, a single column chart of a breakdown of profit, but you need to make your visuals relevant to each other, wherein there's almost like a story, there's a flow whenever someone looks at your dashboard. And usually the one that can help you go towards that flow, go towards that story is your resource person in your audience, or maybe a select members of your audience. And as far as as far as growing more, learning about Power BI, actually, I'm gonna pause here and go into Teams again. So one of the things that I did want to ask, which I haven't really, or what I wasn't able to ask at the start of this program is everyone already familiar with Power BI? Or I guess in the 95 people that we have online on Teams, who is already, can we have a show of hands who are already uh, familiar with Power BI, using Power BI in their day-to-day? I think people raised hands in. I was kind of. Oh wait, never mind. I should have said react, like react instead of the hand raise. But yeah, as far as liking, and then are there still people who haven't really started their Power BI journey in this call? Like, do we have absolute beginners, absolute newbies in Power BI? Likes, hands. Okay, so there's a few. Good. So I asked that because as far as if you're a total newbie, although yeah, there are a lot of resources in YouTube actually for free for that matter. Stiaba is also. I know that there are also other presentations as far as delivering or providing very introductory courses to Power BI. If whenever someone that's absolutely new asks me like where can they start learning Power BI, I always point them to the PL300 course in learn.microsoft.com. Reason for that is this is absolute beginner friendly. PL300 actually starts with telling you what the different types of analytics are. Like it will provide you uh, with a briefer of what is descriptive analytics, what is predictive analytics, what's consultative. So super basic, all the way to taking you through the Power BI interface, all the way to taking you through some bits and pieces of DAX, what do you call that? Of uh, telling you how to create your measures, how to create your visuals, and goes all the way to teaching you how to actually administrate your own Power BI service, just in case you have one, your own Power BI workspace, for example, if you have a personal one. So, and then if you do decide to like take it up a notch, of course, it's also the main study guide for the PL300 exam, which I mentioned at the start of the course, is still the main certification for Power BI. I do also have in my YouTube channel, which is inside under the Power BI Pilipinas name. There's also a dashboard in a day program there, which walks you through Power BI in I think 1 hour 20 minutes. There's I do also have a PL300 course through on there for free for like a 2 hour session for each of the chapters back then for PL300. It's kind of old, so I think there's a slight reorganization as far as the chapters are concerned, but it's a 5 episode 2 hour each uh run through for Power BI. Word of warning though, it may be Filipino English if I remember right. So it's not sure if it's purely English as far as those courses are concerned, at least on the Power BI Pilipinas channel. And then one thing that I recently added to this list, and sorry, before I go through, I do want to check. Do we have questions from the audience? I see Royce's hand still up and Lawrence's hand still up. Questions, or are those just leftovers from the earlier activity? Okay, seems to be leftovers. So I guess, okay, all clear. All right. So one thing, one of the URLs that I recently added to this list of resources that I highlight is data pairs. Data pairs design templates. If you go to that, and you know what? Before I go even further, I can copy all of this and then paste it in chat to make it easier for everyone. Paste. Love it. And then, did I actually click on data pairs? I think I did. Skip verification. So, beautiful site. Has design templates on it. If you go to the top portion, just in case you forgot the exact entire URL, just go to datapairs.com. And it houses a lot of Power BI templates that you can use just in case you run out of, for some reason, or you run out of dashboard layout ideas, dashboard motif ideas. And the good news is they offer it at a very low price of $0, at least for most of them. There are some paid templates, I believe, or actually, maybe they already made everything free. So that's good news for everyone. So excellent resource as far as getting inspired. Even if you don't use the templates themselves directly, it's a great like in your face ready site for you to check out. Like I'm not sure how to lay out a certain dashboard that I'm doing right now. Let me check out let me check out some samples. And this is a great like uh springboard into getting inspired, basically. I saw a question. Do you discuss how to set up forecasting in Power BI, the built-in forecasting? Many clients not satisfied on output. So the built-in forecasting is using like sort of a regression model, right, inside Power BI based on historical data points. I'm assuming, Lawrence, that you're talking about the forecasting feature for line charts. At least that's my assumption. If you are, uh, okay, you are. So if you're unfortunately, no, I don't discuss it in any of my or at least I haven't discussed it in any of my videos so far. This I can say though, uh it I don't believe that there's a way to tweak it. Like it's just out of the box and that's it. So unfortunately, if your clients are not satisfied with that specific feature, like they feel like the points are either too high, too low, it doesn't really represent it, then you may I feel that the play is simply for you to go full stat on them and create measures that will forecast your data points and then create a line chart for those for that forecast line. So I did have a client before. Unfortunately, I was not the one who created the forecast line, but they did have someone, one of their analysts, that would create those forecast data points, and those forecast data points would be loaded into Excel, thrown into SharePoint, and I will be tapping on fetching those forecast data points to be used inside Power BI. So if your client is like extra sensitive about those forecasts, maybe you can ask them for help. Like, if this is not to your standard, is there a certain direction that you want to go? Do you have any existing forecasts that we can use as basis? Stuff like that. Good question, though. And then the next links that I have there, Maven Analytics, Onyx Data, FE20 Analytics. So these are providers of data challenges that I've always advocated. I'm currently a Data DNA ambassador for data challenges. And oh, by the way, just in case you are not familiar with data challenges, these are usually monthly challenges being run by these three separately by the way. So they post in LinkedIn a certain time of the month. They would say that today or this month we're going to do a Stiava training challenge, and let's see the let's excuse me. Our data consists of the trainings that Stiava has been providing to its community. Blah blah blah. This is the data set. So they would provide a specific data set, usually in CSV or Excel, and they would ask people to create dashboards out of that, create analytical dashboards out of that, and come up with insights, blah, blah. Uh, I'm unsure now. I kind of forgot like which one of them are specific to Power BI, but I do know that for Data DNA, it is tool agnostic. So it doesn't matter if Power BI is your cup of tea, or if you prefer Excel, or if you prefer Looker, QuickSight, Tableau, whatever, ClickView. They you can submit your screenshots and you can enter the challenge upon completing the other requirements like filling out forms, whatever. So I always mention challenges as well whenever people ask me like how to get started with learning Power BI, because for data challenges, I feel that it doesn't matter whether you're a beginner or an intermediate or an advanced user of Power BI, there's always something for you. If you're a beginner, these data challenges offer a great way for you to go into creating your first unstructured or unguided project in Power BI. And I'm saying unguided because most likely if you're new, you've created a dashboard or two, but they're heavily guided. You're going through a tutorial and they're telling you what to do next. Click on this, click on that. So entering a data challenge, you will have just a data set, an Excel, a CSV file in front of you, and you can just go wild, spread your wings on it. If you're intermediate, then joining these data challenges will allow you to see what other people can come up with using the exact same data set. It will allow you to see like if you look at the other participants, what they came up with, you'll be able to have some realizations about, oh, so that's a great way to actually come up with that insight. That visual was a really smart way of presenting the data that I also kind of saw, but I didn't really have a great way to be able to uh, create an engaging visual out of it. So things like that, it allows you to benchmark yourself essentially and know and basically grow from there. And uh, I remember I would also, one of the things that I would do was I would also actually try to mimic exactly what the winners would come up with. So if I really liked a certain aesthetic from one of the participants, one of the entries, I would literally try to copy it on my own pace, of course. And then if you're advanced, joining data challenges would, well, allow you to try to win a prize. Usually they do come with prizes. These data challenges would come with Amazon gift cards or basically other prizes such as a 1 year access to a certain training website, things like that. So, and finally, of course, taplink.cc/PowerBI Pilipinas, just in case you do want to follow us on any of our socials. Join the community. Our main community is in Facebook. Like we have around 22,000 members as of now, more or less, and it's something that I'm very proud of. We have a lot of very helpful and good-looking members, so it's join us and um, be part of the community. But I again, word of warning though, since I know this is an international audience, there will be a lot of, or there is a high possibility of seeing Filipino Tagalog posts on there. Unfortunately, that is what the community is for. But if you go in there asking something in English, for sure we will be replying in English. No problem about that. So that ends my presentation for tonight. Any questions before we have Surag roll his big wheel of names again? A couple of questions came in. Onyx and FP20 cater all tools. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Jason. But if you will participate on Zoom Charts mini challenge, they will require the Power BI tool because Zoom Charts, because that's where their Zoom chart visuals are available on. Thanks for that, Jason. By any chance, does your company offer internships? So I don't have a company, unfortunately, but as far as internships are concerned, as far as that question is concerned, I would actually recommend asking posting a question to the Facebook group about that, because I do know that there are some training vendors that would offer internships. I know that one of our members, Data Now Inc., does offer internships. I know that Data Sense Analytics, another one of our vendors, sorry, not vendors, another one of our members that is a training vendor, does offer internships. Very limited internships though, so I can't really I don't really know if they have openings right now, but I know that some do. So I would suggest trying to post that question to the community. Hey, thank you for the kind words, Shaminda. Appreciate it. And Surag, I shall give the screen share to you. I am sure everyone's excited on your big wheel.
Yeah, sure. I'm just gonna share my screen. Let me
And
just hit that.
how many names are we going to roll this time?
So this time we had 234 players, but we'll pick only those who are present here, and we'll make sure that we give out to those who are present. Okay, so we're gonna do for the third winner, which is $9 approximately. So let's
Major
to
prizes.
yeah, let's
Major
go from
prizes,
the
guys.
yeah.
And sorry, major prizes we have this is going for top 3, right?
Is Peter here? Peter Andrew.
You're under Lacopia. You can unmute.
If
You can give us
if you're
a
here, please raise your hands. We're gonna
give us a
unmute
hand
there
raise,
since
yeah.
yeah. If you're not here, we'll roll this again. I'm just gonna remove it. Okay, if you're not, I think that person is not here. Okay. So we're gonna roll again for the same one. If we had to take from the people here, it's gonna be hard. Fully, it is same person before. I'm not sure why that came. Okay,
I think yeah.
I think that was previous uh 200% winner.
I think
I'm not sure why that came up.
Chait Chaitanya, you're too lucky. But yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to read that.
Satanantan, Mitushan, are you here? Raise your
Okay,
hand.
should we reshare or pick everybody here to kind of fill up the form and take the name, because right now we have the odds of kind of getting people who are not the person. Let's see if we hit the lucky person here. Jeremy.
I think I saw
Yeah, he's here. He just
Jeremy.
asked a question.
Yeah.
Jeremy, you're here, right? Yeah.
He was the one who chatted, right?
Yes. Okay. So we have a third prize winner. Okay, let's roll for the second one. Congratulations, Jeremy.
Congrats, Jeremy.
Okay, Jeremy is the winner. So
Yeah, you
let's
forgot to
go
click
for the next
remove.
one. Okay, let's go for the next one, which is for $19. Puri Puri one Tony.
Hey, Buddy just
Okay,
raised his
he's
hand.
here.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
he is there.
Yay!
Hey,
All right. And for the
lucky
grand
Friday.
prize,
That's $19. And for the first prize winner,
Drum roll,
let's
please.
see. Let's see.
Congrats, Buddy, by the way.
Hey, Gayan Ganesh.
Raise your hand, Gayan, if you're here.
Do we have you here?
probably not. Next.
I suppose we don't have him. Let's
Yeah.
go for another. Okay, Vijay. Okay, I think
Hey, he's here.
hey,
Hmm.
Vijay is also here. Okay, that's $35. Thank you. Thank you. I think we have all of the winners. There were a couple of uh, the 20 peso winners also. We will send out the email as well for those who were present here. And yeah, that concludes today's session. And we will reach out to you, and I'll just share our community link just so you can reach out to us personally. I'll just share the link in the chat box for the community, whichever you are. Please feel free to make sure you reach out to us. We'll also email just in case if you did not we don't have to be contacting over email. It will take some time. So if you contact through community, it'll be a lot easier for us for a faster communication. So again, thank you everyone for joining, and thank you Tony as well, and Ziggy
Thank you,
for
everyone.
joining. And yeah, it was great having you guys, and I hope everybody here also learned, and we'll have a session. We have also have a hackathon happening tomorrow. I just wanted to share about it, and there is $1,500 worth of prizes that we're giving out. So I'm just gonna share the link to it. If you're interested, you can participate over there. But you have to make sure that you register fast enough so that it's a 12-hour hackathon. I'm just gonna share the link in the chat box.
Good luck to everyone joining.
Okay. Merry
Okay.
Christmas and a Happy New Year, everyone.
Advance Happy New Year, everyone. Thanks for joining, and thank
Bye.
you, Ziggy, Tony, again. Thank you. Have a good holidays.
Yeah. Happy holidays. Bye.
Bye.